Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we are looking at the 12 Mahajan series, and our 10th Mahajan is Bali Maharaj. So let us hear about Bali Maharaj. So just a little recap. Mahajan means great soul, and the reason why we are studying them is because that they are empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to deliver or impart transcendental teachings of the Lord to us. So by following their guidance and following in their footsteps, we can attain all perfection in life. So Bali Maharaj was the celebrated king of demons. He was the son of Virochana. He was extremely powerful, and he gained this power because he pleased the Brahmins and received their benedictions. And also Maharaj Bali was the grandson of the great devotee Prahlad. And we know Prahlad Maharaj is one of the Mahajans that we studied previously. And he's such an exalted devotee that Lord Nrsimhadev himself appeared for his protection. So we can understand, since Bali Maharaj was the grandson of Prahlad, we can understand that Prahlad Maharaj instilled in Bali a strong sense of dharma, values, and devotional service to the Supreme Lord. We will see that this becomes apparent by what he says later on to Vamanadev. Despite being the ruler of the universe, he surrendered everything. So he's celebrated for Atma Nivedana. Atma Nivedana means he gave up. He surrendered everything: his body, his mind, his words, his ego, his possessions, his fame. He surrendered all of that for the Lord. We know that there are 9 limbs of bhakti, of devotional service. So Shravanam, hearing; Kirtanam, chanting; Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the Supreme Lord; Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, like Lakshmi Devi; Archanam, deity worship; Vandanam, offering prayers to the Lord; Dasyam, becoming a servant of the Lord; Sakyam, being the friend of the Lord; and finally Atma Nivedanam. So Bali Maharaj is renowned for this. So Bali Maharaj, so let's take a look. So Srimad Bhagavatam tells us about Bali Maharaj, how he became so powerful, and how he surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So Bali Maharaj was the disciple of Shukracharya, and he served his guru Shukracharya very faithfully. Shukracharya is the guru of the demons. And in return, Shukracharya and the other descendants of Bhrigu became very pleased with Bali Maharaj. And because Bali Maharaj desired to conquer the kingdom of Indra, they engaged him in the performance of the Vishvajit Yagya. After purifying Bali Maharaj, bathing him according to the regulative principles, the Brahmins sat down in the sacrificial arena. As soon as oblations were poured into the sacrificial fire, a celestial chariot appeared, along with yellow horses resembling those of Indra, and a flag marked with the symbol of a lion. There also appeared a golden bow, 2 quivers of infallible arrows, and celestial armor. Bali Maharaj's grandfather Prahlad then offered him a garland of ever-fresh flowers, and Shukracharya gave him a conch shell. Excuse me. So after having thus received the necessary paraphernalia for battle by the mercy of the Brahmins, Bali Maharaj circumambulated them and offered his obeisances. Then after offering his obeisances to Prahlad Maharaj, Bali got onto the celestial chariot and put on his protective armor. After making ready his weapons, Bali Maharaj assembled his soldiers and the other leaders of the demons, so that the combined warriors looked as if they were prepared to swallow up the sky and burn all directions with their vision. So Bali Maharaj then departed for the capital of Indra, and while going there, he seemed to make the surface of the earth tremble. So there is mention of Indraloka in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So demons commonly, they like to attack Indraloka because it's the heavenly planet, and we know that facilities for sense enjoyment in the heavenly planets, it's 1,000 times higher than the facilities for enjoyment in this material world on planet Earth. So the asuras, who are very much inclined towards sense gratification, they very much covet Indraloka. They really want to enjoy there. So King Indra's city is described as full of very pleasing gardens that are filled with trees whose branches bend low due to the weight of their fruits and flowers. Beautiful women sport in these celestial gardens under the protection of the demigods, and the lakes there are filled with lotus flowers and many species of exotic birds. Surrounding Indrapuri are moats of Ganga water called Akash Ganga, as well as high walls equipped with parapets for defense. The entire city of Indrapuri has been constructed by Vishwakarma, and it's full of courtyards, assembly houses, wide avenues, and not less than 100 million airplanes. The crossroads are made from pearl, and the sitting places are made of diamond and coral. Everywhere is everlastingly beautiful and youthful women to be seen everywhere, who seem to glitter like the flames of a fire. The breezes that blow through the city bear the fragrance of flowers that fall from the hair of these damsels, and they combine with the smoke of the aguru emanating from the windows of the residences. Throughout the city, the cries of peacocks are always to be heard, as well as the auspicious songs chanted by the beautiful women flying overhead in their airplanes. In addition, the sounds of flutes, stringed instruments, and drums play in concert along with the singing of the Gandharvas. Constantly, these sounds fill the air. So it is mentioned no one can enter that city who is sinful, envious, violent towards other living beings, cunning, falsely proud, lusty, or greedy, because the people who reside there in Indrapuri, they are all devoid of these faults. So as Bali Maharaj attacked the outskirts of Indrapuri, he blew the conch shell given to him by his spiritual master Shukracharya, causing fear to enter the hearts of the women protected by Indra. When Indra and the other demigods saw the strength of Bali Maharaj's army and understood his intention, they hastily approached Brihaspati and said, "My lord, our old enemy Bali Maharaj has gained such astonishing prowess and enthusiasm that we cannot even imagine resisting him. It appears as if Bali is trying to drink up the entire universe with his mouth, lick up the 10 directions with his tongue, and set fire everywhere with his eyes. What is the cause of Bali Maharaj's newfound strength and influence? So Brihaspati, who is the guru of the demigods, replied, "My dear Indra, because the Brahmin descendants of Bhrigu Muni have become very pleased with Bali Maharaj, they have endowed him with this extraordinary prowess. You will not be able to conquer him now, for he has become empowered with their Brahma Tejas. Indeed, just as no one can stand before Yamaraj, no one can vanquish Bali now except the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you should leave the heavenly planets and remain elsewhere, unseen by others, and wait for the time when the situation becomes reversed. Later on, when Bali Maharaj insults the Brahmins, he will surely be vanquished along with his friends and associates." So, being so advised, the demigods assumed various forms according to their desires, and then left the heavenly planets scattering here and there without being observed by the demons. Bali Maharaj then entered Indrapuri, and from there he proceeded to bring the entire three worlds under his control. After this, Shukracharya and other Brahmin descendants of Bhrigu, being very pleased with their disciple, engaged him in performing 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas to enable him to remain upon the throne of Indra. So we know that Indra performed 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas, and so he is entitled, because of all this austerity, to sit on the throne. So Bali Maharaj did all of that. And after performing these sacrifices, Bali Maharaj's reputation spread in all directions. And indeed, he appeared to brilliantly shine while seated upon Indra's throne, like the full moon in the sky. By the mercy of the Brahmins, Bali Maharaj became very satisfied at having attained such an opulent position, and thus he began enjoying life in the kingdom of heaven. In the meantime, due to the misfortune of her sons, however, Aditi began to lament like one who had no protector. So Aditi is the mother of the demigods, and the father of the demigods is Kashyapa Muni. So after a long time, the great sage Kashyapa emerged from his trance of meditation and returned home to his ashram. Although Aditi greeted him with a proper reception, Kashyapa could see that she was morose and that their abode was now wrapped in gloom. After taking his seat, Kashyapa said, "O most gentle one, has something inauspicious happened with regard to your execution of religious principles, your dealings with the Brahmins, or with the people in general? Have there been some discrepancies in your execution of the principles of Dharma, Artha, and Kama, the following of which make the activities of a householder as good as those of the transcendentalists? Being too much attached to your own family members, have you failed to properly receive uninvited guests, who therefore went away disappointed? Homes from which guests depart without having been received with at least an offering of a little water are like the holes in the field that serve as residence for jackals. O chaste woman, because of my long absence, were you so anxious you neglected to offer oblations of ghee into the sacrificial fire? O great-minded lady, are your sons faring well? By seeing your withered face, I can understand that your mind is not tranquil. Why is this? Aditi replied, O respected husband, because I always think of you, there is no possibility of my neglecting any of the religious principles. My lord, since you, who are one of the Prajapatis, are my personal instructor, where is the possibility that all of my desires will not be fulfilled? Because you are a great personality, you are equal towards the demigods and demons, who are all born from your body and mind. However, even though he is equal to all living entities, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is especially favorable to the devotees. Therefore, kindly favor us, the demigods, for we have been deprived of our residence, fame, and opulence by our enemies, the demons. Having become exiled from heaven, we are now drowning in an ocean of miseries. O best of sages, please consider our situation and then bestow upon my sons benedictions whereby they may regain what they have lost. Upon hearing Aditi's request, Kashyapa slightly smiled and then said, My dear Aditi, you should engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of everything, who can subdue one's enemies, and who can bestow all auspicious benedictions upon everyone. The Supreme Lord, who is very merciful to the poor, will fulfill all your desires, because devotional service unto him is infallible. Indeed, in my opinion, any method other than devotional service is simply a useless waste of time. Kashyapa first actually tried to impart spiritual knowledge to his wife, so she might become equipoised in loss and gain. However, when he saw she was not ready to accept such instruction, he advised her to engage in devotional service for the fulfillment of her desires. So Aditi approached the Supreme Lord in distress. Aditi then requested, O Brahman, please tell me the regulative principles by which I may worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he will become pleased with me and fulfill my desires. So Kashyapa then he said, formerly, when I had desired to beget offspring, excuse me, I had requested the guidance from Lord Brahma. Now I shall explain to you the same process that Lord Brahma imparted to me, and by which the Supreme Lord becomes easily satisfied. So he explained to her a ritualistic ceremony known as the Payovrat, which he had formerly learned from his grandfather, Lord Brahma. So he said, during the bright fortnight of the month of Falgun, for 12 days, ending with Dwadashi, one should observe the vow of drinking only milk while worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full devotion. So he then gave a lot of instructions how to worship the Lord, how to chant mantras, how to do abhishek, and how the Vaishnavas should be fed prasadam, and how she should observe strict celibacy and not unnecessarily talk of material subjects, and how she should be free from envy towards all living entities, bathe the deity with milk, yogurt, ghee, sugar, and honey, arranged for gorgeous worship of Lord Vishnu, and offer him sumptuous food while chanting and the Purusha Shukta mantras, etc. And so he said to her, "My dear gentle lady, rest assured that by following this vow, the Supreme Lord will be soon very pleased and satisfy all your desires. O most fortunate lady, execute this process, and thus worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a peaceful mind and joyful spirit." Thereafter, Aditi performed the Payavrat as instructed by her husband. With undivided attention, she meditated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus brought her mind and senses under complete control. At the completion of her vow, the Supreme Lord, being very pleased, appeared before her in his four-armed form. Aditi immediately became overwhelmed by transcendental ecstasy. She fell onto the ground like a rod to offer her obeisances. Because of her great ecstasy, after standing up, she was not able to speak. As she stood before the Lord with folded hands, tears filling her eyes, her hair stood up on end and her entire body trembled. With a voice faltering due to excessive love, Aditi offered her prayers as follows, while appearing to drink the Lord through her eyes. O original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Controller, you are the shelter of all poor, suffering, living beings. Please be kind upon us and spread our good fortune. O Unlimited One, if your Lordship is satisfied, then one can very easily obtain a lifetime equal to Brahma's, residence in any desirable planetary systems, unlimited opulences, satisfaction of the senses, mystic perfections, and transcendental knowledge. And so what to speak of such a petty achievement as conquering one's enemies? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Mother of the Demigods, I have already understood your long-cherished desire for the welfare of your sons. I can understand that you want to be reunited with them, so that together you can worship me after defeating the demons and retrieving your heavenly abode. In my opinion, however, almost all the leaders of the demons are now unconquerable, for they are under the protection of the Brahmins, whom the Supreme Lord always favors. Therefore, to try and use prowess against them would certainly prove futile and result in even more misery. And yet, because I have been satisfied by your execution of the Payavrat, I must find some means for favoring you, because worship of me never goes in vain. You have prayed to me and properly executed your vow for the sake of protecting your sons. Because of this, and in consideration of Kashyapa Muni's austerities, I shall agree to become your son for the purpose of protecting your other sons, while always meditating upon me as being situated within your husband's body. Go and worship him, and be careful not to disclose this fact to anyone, even if asked. That which is very confidential becomes successful if kept secret. So after saying this, the Supreme Lord disappeared from that spot. Having achieved the incomparable benediction that the Supreme Lord would appear as her son, Aditi considered herself to be successful, and thereafter she approached her husband with great devotion. While situated in a trance of meditation, Kashyapa could see that a plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead had entered within him. Thereafter, just as the wind causes fire by the friction of two pieces of wood, Kashyapa transferred his potency into the womb of Aditi. When Lord Brahma understood that the Supreme Lord was within Aditi's womb, he came and he offered his prayers. My dear Lord, you are the original generator of all living beings, moving and unmoving, and you are also the generator of the Prajapatis. O my Lord, as a boat is the only hope for a person drowning in the water, you are the only shelter for the demigods who are now bereft of their heavenly position. Thereafter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared from Aditi's womb. His 4 hands decorated with conch shell, club, lotus flower, and disc. He was dressed in yellow garments, and his eyes appeared like the petals of a blooming lotus flower. The Lord's complexion was blackish, and his lotus face appeared very beautiful. His body was fully decorated with various ornaments. Upon his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, and an uncommonly beautiful flower garland hung around his neck, surrounded by humming bees in search of honey. The effulgence of the Lord dissipated the darkness in the home of Prajapati Kashyapa, and in all directions and within the core of everyone's hearts there were manifestations of happiness. The various seasons simultaneously displayed their respective qualities, and in consideration of the Lord's appearance, the stars and the planets situated themselves most auspiciously. The Lord appeared on Shravana Dwadashi, the 12th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Bhadra, at the auspicious moment known as Abhijit, at noon. This day is also known as Vijaya Dwadashi. Upon the appearance of the Supreme Lord, the combined sounds of conch shells, drums, and combined sounds of conch shells, drums, and various musical instruments became tumultuous. The Apsaras danced in jubilation, and the best of Gandharvas sang, and the great sages, demigods, Manus, Pitas, and fire gods offered prayers for the Lord's satisfaction. As they glorified the Lord and danced, the Siddhas, Suparnas, and Nagas showered so many flowers from above that Kashyapa's entire house became covered. When Aditi saw how the Supreme Personality of Godhead had appeared from her womb by means of his internal potency, she was highly astonished and ecstatic. In great happiness and amazement, Kashyapa exclaimed, "Jai, Jai," again and again. Then, in the presence of his mother and father, the Supreme Lord assumed the form of Vaman, a dwarf Brahmin brahmachari, just as a theatrical actor changes his dress. When the great sages saw the Lord in this form, they became very pleased. Placing Kashyapa at their head, the Brahmins performed all the ritualistic ceremonies for Lord Vamanadev, beginning with the birth ceremony. During the performance of the sacred thread ceremony, the sun god personally uttered the Gayatri mantra, and Brihaspati offered the Lord a sacred thread. Kashyapa offered Vaman a straw belt. Mother Earth gave him a deer skin, and the moon god gave the Lord a Brahma danda. Aditi presented his son with cloth for underwear, and the deity presiding over heaven gave him an umbrella. Lord Brahma offered Vamanadev a water pot. The Saptarishis presented him kusha grass, and Mother Saraswati gave the Lord a string of Rudraksha beads. Kuvera presented Vaman with a pot for begging alms, and the wife of Lord Shiva gave him his first donate on. Having thus been welcomed, Lord Vamana exhibited his Brahman effulgence, so that he surpassed in beauty the entire assembly of great sages and demigods. Thereafter, when Lord Vamanadev heard that Bali Maharaj was performing Ashvamedha Yagyas under the direction of the Brahmin descendants of the Bhrigu dynasty, he went there to show mercy to the king of the demons. While going, the Lord's weight pushed down the earth at every step. As they engaged in performing sacrifice on the northern bank of the Narmada river at the place known as Bhrigu Kacha, the priests saw the appearance of Lord Vamanadev to be like the rising of the sun nearby. Vamanadev's brilliant effulgence robbed the splendor of Bali Maharaj and all the assembled Brahmins, so that they began talking amongst themselves as to whether the sun god himself, Agni, or Sanat Kumar had arrived at their sacrificial arena. As the descendants of Bhrigu were thus arguing in various ways, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vamanadev entered the arena, holding his rod, umbrella, and water pot in his hands. Appearing as a Brahmin boy, the Lord wore a straw belt, a sacred thread, a deerskin garment, and matted locks of hair on his head. Feeling their prowess diminished by the Lord's presence, the Brahmins immediately rose up from their seats and welcomed Vaman properly by offering him their obeisances. Bali Maharaj, who felt great jubilation upon seeing the Lord, offered him a seat with great satisfaction, and then worshipped him by washing his lotus feet. Just as Lord Shiva receives the water of the Ganga upon his head with great devotion, Bali Maharaj placed upon his head the water that had washed Lord Vamanadev's lotus feet. Bali Maharaj then addressed the Lord as follows: "O Brahmin, I offer you my welcome and most respectful obeisances. Please let us know what we may do for you." "O my Lord, because of your arrival, all my forefathers have certainly become satisfied, and our entire dynasty has been sanctified. Indeed, we feel that our sacrifice has now come to a successful completion just by your presence. Not only have I become freed from all sinful reactions by the water that washed your lotus feet, but by the touch of your small lotus feet, the entire surface of the earth has certainly become sanctified. O son of a Brahmin, it appears that you have come here to ask me for something. You can take from me whatever you desire, whether it be a cow, gold, a house, food, and drink, the daughter of a Brahmin for becoming your wife, villages, horses, elephants, chariots, or whatever else you may want." So Lord Vamanadev was very satisfied to hear Bali Maharaj speak in such a pleasing manner. Therefore, in reply, the Lord praised him as follows: O king, you are indeed exalted because you have accepted the guidance of the Brahmanas and are under the care of your grandfather Prahlad Maharaj. I know that no one has taken birth in your family who is poor-minded or miserly, and thus has refused to give charity to a Brahmin or accept the challenge of a Kshatriya on the battlefield. Nor has anyone in your family failed to fulfill his word after having promised to give something in charity. The great hero Hiranyaksha was born in your dynasty, and without any assistance he easily conquered all directions. The Lord in his Varaha incarnation killed Hiranyaksha only with great difficulty after a very severe fight. Thus later on, when the Lord thought about Hiranyaksha's uncommon prowess, he felt himself to be victorious indeed. When Hiranyakashipu heard of his brother's death, he angrily went to Lord Vishnu's residence to gain revenge. When the Lord saw Hiranyakashipu coming with a trident in his hand, he thought as follows: wherever I go, Hiranyakashipu will follow me, just as death constantly pursues all living entities. Therefore, I had better enter the core of his heart, because he only has the power to see externally. He will not be able to see me there. After making this decision, Lord Vishnu entered the body of Hiranyakashipu, who was rushing towards him with great speed. In a subtle body that was inconceivable to him, the Lord of all mystic powers entered Hiranyakashipu's nostril along with his breath. When Hiranyakashipu found Lord Vishnu's residence vacant, he began searching for him throughout the universe, while angrily challenging him to fight. Finally, after being unable to find Lord Vishnu anywhere, Hiranyakashipu thought, I have searched the entire universe, but I have not found Lord Vishnu. Therefore, he must have gone to that place from which no one returns, or in other words, he must now be dead. Lord Vamana continued to speak to Bali Maharaj. Your father Virochana was so affectionate to the Brahmins that even though he knew that it was the demigods who had come to him in the dress of Brahmins, he delivered to them the duration of his life at their request. O King of the deities who have followed in the footsteps of your illustrious forefathers, I wish to ask for only 3 paces of land, according to my own measurement. Although you are certainly very munificent and are able to give me as much land as I could possibly ask for, I do not wish to accept anything from you that is more than what I need. If a learned Brahmana takes charity from others just according to his needs, then he does not become entangled in sinful activities. Bali Maharaj replied, O son of a Brahmin, your speech is as good as that of learned and elderly persons. However, because you're a mere boy, your intelligence is undeveloped, and thus you are not very prudent in regard to your self-interest. I am the proprietor of the entire 3 worlds, and so I could give you one of the 7 islands of Bhumandala, and yet, in spite of your having come here and pleased me by your sweet words, you are asking for only 3 paces of land. For this reason, I can understand that you are not very intelligent. O little boy, one who approaches me should beg for enough so that he will never again have to ask for something from anyone. Therefore, please take from me as much land as is necessary for you to maintain yourself according to your needs. Lord Vamanadev said, O king, if a person's senses are uncontrolled, even if he were to receive the entirety of whatever there may be within the three worlds to satisfy his senses, he would still remain dissatisfied. If I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be content even by possessing one of the 7 islands of Bhumandala, and would hope to get the others as well. We have heard how powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya gained proprietorship over the entire Saptadweep, but still could not find the limit of their ambitions. Therefore, one should be satisfied with whatever he achieves as a result of his destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will never be happy, even if he were to possess the entire 3 worlds. Material existence causes discontent as one tries to fulfill his lust and greed, and thus the repetition of birth and death continues. However, one who is satisfied with that which is obtained by destiny is fit for liberation from material existence. A Brahmin who remains satisfied with whatever is providentially obtained becomes increasingly enlightened with spiritual power. On the other hand, the spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahmin decreases like a fire when water is sprinkled upon it. Therefore, my dear king, I only wish to ask you for 3 paces of land, and by that gift I shall be very pleased. Bali Maharaj smiled and replied, "All right, take whatever you like," and to confirm his promise, he picked up his water pot. Shukracharya could understand Lord Vishnu's purpose, however, and so he immediately told his disciple, who was about to offer everything to Lord Vamanadev, "O son of Virochana, this dwarf Brahmin is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Having accepted Kashyapa and Aditi as his mother and father, he has now appeared to fulfill the interest of the demigods. This person who has falsely appeared as a brahmachari is the Supreme Lord. After taking away all your land, wealth, beauty, power, and fame, he will deliver the kingdom of the 3 worlds to your enemy Indra. You rascal, you do not know what a great mistake you have made, for when you give him the promised 3 steps of land, he will occupy the entire 3 worlds. After giving everything to Lord Vishnu, what will be your means of livelihood? This dwarf Brahmin will cover all of the land and space within the universe with only 2 steps. Where then will he be able to place his 3rd? Because of this, you will be unable to fulfill your promise, thus paving your way to an eternal residence in hell. Learned scholars do not praise that charity which endangers one's livelihood, for one's occupation is the root of all religious performances. For this reason, one should divide his wealth into 5 parts: for religion, for reputation, for opulence, for sense gratification, and for the maintenance of family members. In this way, one can become happy in this world as well as in the next. If you argue that you cannot break a promise that is already made, then listen to the evidence of the Bhavracha Shruti, which states that a promise is valid only when preceded by Om and not otherwise. Just as fruits and flowers cannot exist without the body of a tree, without the material body, one cannot derive the benefit of religious practice. Therefore, even though the body is asat or not factual, it is necessary for achieving a tangible result. If one gives everything in charity and thus becomes poverty-stricken, the result will be that he will remain unfulfilled in terms of both sense gratification and self-realization. In this case, the safe course of action is to refuse this brahmachari's request for charity. Although such a refusal involves telling a lie, it will protect you. For flattering a woman to bring her under control, while joking during a marriage ceremony for the purpose of earning one's livelihood, for saving one's life when it is in danger, for protecting cows and Brahmins, or for saving anyone from the hands of an enemy, falsity is never condemned. Shukracharya was a representative of the priestly class of Brahmins who were mostly interested in receiving remuneration from their disciples. Thus, he was very concerned about what would happen to his own position if the Lord took away all of Bali Maharaj's possessions. And that is the difference between a Smarta Brahmin and a Vaishnava. A Smarta Brahmin is always interested in material profit, whereas a Vaishnava is interested only in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After hearing his spiritual master's arguments, which were meant to discourage him from fulfilling his promise, Bali Maharaj remained silent for some time at this very crucial point. Bali Maharaj thought, how can I disobey my spiritual master? On the other hand, Shukracharya has deviated from the duty of a spiritual master, which is to teach his disciple how to surrender unto Lord Vishnu and thus go back home, back to Godhead. Shukracharya can be rejected due to having deviated from his duty as a guru. Therefore, I think that it is better for me to independently satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead in all respects, even at the risk of ignoring his advice to the contrary. After full deliberation, Bali Maharaj replied to Shukracharya, I agree with your statement that the householder should accept only those religious principles that do not hinder one's means of livelihood and good reputation. How then can I withdraw my promise simply out of greed and thus behave like an ordinary cheater, especially towards a Brahmin? There is nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. For this reason, Mother Earth once said, I can bear any heavy burden except a person who is a liar. I do not fear hell, poverty, an ocean of distress, falling down from my position, or even death itself, as much as I fear cheating a Brahmin. Because whatever one possesses is taken away sooner or later. Why not please this Brahmin with the wealth that one is destined to lose at the time of death, if that is what is required to satisfy him? The Dichi, Shibi, and many other great personalities were willing to sacrifice their very lives for the welfare of others. Why shouldn't I be willing to give up a little insignificant land? Since all one's possessions will eventually be lost, why not use them for the achievement of a good reputation, which continues to exist even after death? O best of Brahmins, many men have fearlessly laid down their lives on the battlefield, but rarely has one got the opportunity to directly give his accumulated wealth to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Under the circumstances, I must give this little brahmachari whatever charity he wants. O great sage, saintly persons like you always engage in worshipping Lord Vishnu. Therefore, whether Lord Vishnu has come here to give me benedictions or punish me as an enemy, I must carry out his order and give him the requested land without hesitation. If Lord Vishnu has actually come here covering himself out of fear, then even if he irreligiously arrests or even kills me, I shall not retaliate because he has assumed the form of a Brahmin. But I feel that Lord Vishnu would never give up his widespread reputation by resorting to such deception. Either he would lie down on the battlefield having been slain by me, or he would kill me in a fight. So in reality, Shukracharya was actually trying to hinder Bali Maharaj's execution of devotional service. So in order to overcome such a hindrance, Bali decided to reject Shukracharya's advice and immediately give everything to Vamanadev. We have to remember that Bali Maharaj had received the seed of devotional service from his grandfather Prahlad, and when that seed developed, he became so purified that the Supreme Lord mercifully appeared before him. Due to having attained the perfection of love of Godhead by the mercy of Prahlad, Bali Maharaj immediately decided, I shall give this little Brahmin dwarf whatever he asks from me. And this is a sign of love. And yet, although Bali Maharaj was prepared to give the gift to Vamanadev without discussion, he knew that this would pain the hearts of Shukracharya and the demons. It is for this reason that he spoke in such an equivocal way. Actually, if Lord Vishnu had come and requested Bali Maharaj directly for the kingdom of the free worlds, he certainly would not have refused. Therefore, it was just to enjoy a little humor with his devotee that the Lord covered himself as a dwarf Brahmin and then begged for 3 steps of land from Bali Maharaj. Thereafter, being inspired by the Supreme Lord from within his heart, Shukracharya cursed Bali Maharaj as follows: Although you have no real knowledge, you consider yourself to be so learned that you have impudently dared to disobey my order. As a result, you shall very soon become bereft of all your opulence. Even though he was cursed by his spiritual master, Bali Maharaj never deviated from his fixed determination. Thus, according to the custom, he first offered water to Lord Vamanadev and then gave him the gift of land as he had promised. Bali Maharaj's wife Vindhyavali brought a large water pot, and Bali jubilantly washed the Lord's lotus feet and then placed the water upon his head. All the demigods, being exceedingly pleased with Bali Maharaj's simple, non-duplicitous act, began praising him while showering down millions of flowers. The Gandharvas sounded many thousands of trumpets and played their drums while declaring, "How exalted a person is Bali Maharaj, and what a difficult task he has performed." Even though he knew that Lord Vishnu had come on behalf of his enemies, he nonetheless gave him the entire 3 worlds in charity. Lord Vamanadev began increasing in size until everything in the universe was within his body. Bali Maharaj and the entire assembly could see the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which contained all the gross and subtle material elements, the senses and the sense objects, as well as all the planetary systems and living entities. Bali Maharaj could see the lower planetary systems situated upon the soles of the lotus feet of the Lord's universal form, which stood upon the surface of the earth. On the Lord's calves were situated the mountains, on his knees the various birds, and on his thighs the air. Beneath the Lord's garments were seen the evening twilight. Bali Maharaj saw himself and his associates situated on the Lord's waist along with the 7 oceans. In the Lord's navel he saw the sky, and on the Lord's chest he saw the stars. Bali Maharaj saw religion situated on the heart of the Lord, pleasing words and truthfulness upon his chest, and the moon was seen in his mind. The goddess of fortune was also resting upon the Lord's chest, and on his neck were all the Vedas. The demigods, headed by Indra, were situated upon the Lord's arms, and the directions were seen in his ears. On his head were the upper planetary systems, on his hair the clouds, in his nostrils the wind, in his eyes the sun, and in his mouth was fire. From his words came the Vedic mantra, and on his tongue was Varuna. On the eyebrows of the Lord's universal form were the regulative principles, and on his eyelids were day and night. Anger was situated on his forehead, envy upon his lips, lusty desire in his touch. On his back was irreligion, and in his acts were fire sacrifices. On the Lord's bodily hairs were all of the drugs and herbs. In his smile was the illusory energy, and on his shadow was death. In his veins were all the rivers, on his nails were all the stones. In his intelligence was Lord Brahma and other demigods and great sages. And throughout his entire body were all kinds of moving and non-moving living entities. When the demons saw the Sudarshan chakra in the Lord's hand and heard the tumultuous twanging of his bow, lamentation entered their hearts. The Panchajanya conch shell, the Komodaki club, the sword named Vidyadhara, the shield decorated with hundreds of moon-like spots, and the best of quivers called Akshaya Sakyaka all appeared together along with the Lord's personal associates to offer prayers unto the universal form. Thereafter, when Lord Vamanadev took his second step, he covered all the heavenly planets. Indeed, as his lotus foot extended higher and higher, beyond even Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, there remained absolutely no place to put his third step. And at this time, the Lord's toenail pierced the universal coverings, and a drop of the causal ocean leaked in through the hole so that it could deliver all of the fallen souls by becoming the river Ganga. So this causal ocean actually washed the toe of Lord Vamanadev. When Lord Brahma saw the effulgence of his abode, Brahmaloka, reduced by the glaring light emanating from Lord Vamanadev's toenails, he approached the Lord along with the great sages. After worshipping the upraised lotus foot of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with oblations of water, Lord Brahma, who seemed insignificant in the presence of that effulgent lotus foot, offered his prayers. The water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu, which washed Lord Vamanadev's lotus foot, combined with the water that had leaked through from the causal ocean to become Ganga. Thereafter, Lord Vamanadev resumed his original form as a dwarf Brahmin, and so all the great demigods headed by Lord Brahma came there and worshipped him with offerings of fragrant flowers, water, padya, arghya, sandalwood paste, aguru paste, incense, lamps, fused rice, unbroken grains, fruit, roots, and sprouts. While worshipping Lord Vamanadev, the demigods also offered prayers that describe his glorious activities, and they also danced, sang, played upon musical instruments, and sounded their conch shells. When Bali Maharaj's demon followers saw that their master had lost all his possessions to Vamanadev, who had taken them away on the plea of begging for 3 paces of land, they angrily exclaimed, "This Vaman is not a Brahmin, but the best of cheaters. Lord Vishnu, having covered his real form by disguising himself as a Brahmin, he is working on behalf of the demigods. Since our Lord Bali Maharaj had given up the power to punish while engaged in this sacrificial performance, our eternal enemy Vishnu has taken the opportunity to steal his kingdom. Bali Maharaj will not retaliate because he is always fixed in a vow of truthfulness, and thus it is our duty to kill this Vamanadev on his behalf." Having come to this decision, the demons angrily picked up their weapons, and although Bali Maharaj tried to forbid them, they rushed at Lord Vamanadev, hoping to kill him. When the associates of Lord Vishnu saw the demons approaching, they smilingly picked up their own weapons and forbade them from continuing their attempt. These associates of the Lord, such as Nanda, Sunanda, Jay, Vijay, and Garud, were all extremely powerful, and so when the demons ignored their warning, they easily began to slaughter them. When Bali Maharaj saw how his soldiers were being killed, he remembered Shukracharya's curse and forbade the demons from further aggression by saying, "O Viprichiti, O Rahu, O Nemi, please hear my words. Because the present time is not in our favor, stop fighting immediately. No one can supersede the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme giver of happiness and distress. The time factor, which represents the Supreme Lord, was previously in our favor, but now it has gone against us. Unless and until Providence is in our favor, we shall never be able to gain victory. Let us wait for that favorable time when defeating our enemies will be possible." Thereafter, in accordance with Bali Maharaj's order, the demons entered the lower regions of the universe, being driven by the soldiers of Lord Vishnu. Then, on the day of Somapana, Garuda arrested Bali Maharaj with the ropes of Varuna, understanding this to be Lord Vishnu's desire. When Bali Maharaj was thus bound up, a great roar of lamentation was heard in all directions throughout the upper and lower planetary systems. Although he had lost all bodily luster, Bali Maharaj remained fixed in his determination to satisfy Lord Vishnu, and thus he was not overly disturbed by the loss of all his possessions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Vamanadev then told Bali Maharaj, "O King of the demons, you had promised to give me 3 steps of land, but I have occupied the entire universe with my first 2. Now please tell me, where shall I place my third step? Because you are unable to give charity according to your promise, you must now go down to live in the lower planets. Being falsely proud of your possessions, you had promised to give me land, and yet you could not fulfill your word. Therefore, because of your fault, and in accordance with the order of Shukracharya, you must live below the earth for a few years. After having mercifully taken away all of Bali Maharaj's possessions, the Lord arrested him just to show everyone the greatness of his devotees' tolerance. Feeling that he had not fulfilled his promise, and considering the possessor to be greater than his opulence, Bali Maharaj replied, "O Supreme Personality of Godhead, if you think that I have not given you charity according to my words, then I shall certainly rectify matters, because I cannot allow my promise to prove false. I beg you to please place your third lotus footstep on my head. I do not fear being deprived of all my possessions, living in hellish life, or being arrested or punished by you, as much as I fear my defamation for having cheated a Brahmin. Although a father, mother, or friend may sometimes chastise one as a well-wisher, they never punish their subordinates like this. Still, because you are the most worshipable Lord, I consider this punishment to be a great favor. Because your Lordship is indirectly the greatest well-wisher of us demons, you act for our best welfare by posing as our enemy. Because we always aspire for a position of false prestige, you give us the vision to see the correct path by chastising us. Many demons that were continually inimical towards you achieved the perfection that is attained by great mystic yogis. Although you have arrested and punished me, I do not feel at all ashamed or grieved. What is the use of this material body, which automatically leaves its owner at the end of life? What is the use of one's family members, who are actually plunderers, that take away one's money, which could be used in the devotional service of the Lord? What is the use of home, community, and country, for attachment to them merely wastes one's valuable time and energy? By good fortune, I have been deprived of all my opulence and forcibly brought under the shelter of your lotus feet." As Bali Maharaj was thus describing his position in this way, Prahlad Maharaj appeared upon the scene like the moon rising at night. Prahlad's tall, elegant body had a very blackish complexion, and he was dressed in fine yellow garments. His beautiful eyes resembled the petals of a lotus flower. His arms were long, and his appearance was extremely pleasing to all. Because Bali Maharaj was bound by the ropes of Varuna, he could not properly offer respect to his grandfather, so he simply bowed his head. Because Vamanadev had arrested him, Bali Maharaj considered himself to be a great offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. Feeling that Prahlad Maharaj must certainly be displeased with him, Bali hung his head down in shame and his eyes filled with tears. When Prahlad Maharaj saw Lord Vamanadev, who was being worshipped by his intimate associates, he began shedding tears due to feelings of great jubilation. After coming before Vamanadev, Prahlad fell to the ground to offer obeisances and then said, "My dear Lord, it was you who gave Bali the kingdom of the free worlds, and now you have taken it away. I consider that you have acted equally in both cases. In other words, because Bali's exalted position was putting him deeper into the darkness of ignorance, you have done him a great favor by taking everything away. Material opulence is so bewildering that it can make even a very learned and self-controlled man forget the need to endeavor for the goal of life, self-realization. As Prahlad Maharaj stood before Vamanadeva with folded hands, Lord Brahma next began to address the Lord. However, Bali Maharaj's chaste wife Vindhyavali, who was very fearful and aggrieved because of her husband's arrest, suddenly came before the Lord, and offering her obeisances with folded hands, Vindhyavali said, "O my Lord, you have created the universe so that you can enjoy your pastimes, but foolish, unintelligent men claim proprietorship while falsely claiming ownership. Such persons think that they can give some charity and thus enjoy a prestigious position." In this way, Vindhyavali criticized her husband. Bali thought that by giving his body to the Lord, he could free himself from the defamation of being unable to give in charity what he had promised. However, his wife pointed out that since he was still in the darkness of ignorance, he thought his body to be his own property and not the Lord's. After seeing Prahlad and Vindhyavali approach the Lord to beg for mercy on behalf of Bali Maharaj, Lord Brahma joined them by saying, "O well-wisher and master of all living entities, I think that this man has been sufficiently punished, for you have taken away everything from him. Bali Maharaj offered you everything in his possession without hesitation, including his own body, so I think that he can now be released. My dear Lord, simply by offering water, newly grown grass, or flowers at your lotus feet, those who maintain no mental duplicity can elevate themselves to the spiritual world. This Bali Maharaj, without duplicity, has offered you everything within the free worlds. How then can he suffer? Can he deserve to suffer like this?" The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "My dear Brahma, because of material opulence, a foolish person becomes practically mad and thus does not care for anyone and dares to defy even my authority. To such a person I show my special favor by first of all taking away his possessions. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death, by good fortune, a dependent living entity may come to the human form of life, which is very rarely achieved. If a human being is born in a higher status of family, if he performs wonderful activities, if he is youthful, or if he has great beauty, a good education or wealth, but is nonetheless not proud of his opulence, it is to be understood that he is even more favored by me. In other words, such a person understands very well that these material assets are attained by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and thus he engages them fully in the service of the Lord. Although such material advantages are generally impediments to a conditioned soul's advancement in devotional service, because they cause him to become falsely proud, they can never disturb a pure devotee of the Lord. So, although such material advantages are generally impediments to conditioned soul's advancement in devotional service because they cause him to become falsely proud, they can never disturb a pure devotee of the Lord. Bali Maharaj has become the most exalted among the Asuras, for in spite of having undergone so much misery, he has passed my examination by remaining fixed in devotional service. Although bereft of his riches, fallen from his position, defeated and arrested by his enemies, rebuked and deserted by his relatives and friends, and cursed by his spiritual master, Bali Maharaj remained steady in his vow of truthfulness. In consideration of his great tolerance, I have decided to give Bali Maharaj a place superior to the residences of the demigods. Afterwards, in the next Manvantara, which will be ruled over by Sabarani Manu, Bali Maharaj will take the post of Indra. Meanwhile, he will live on the planet Sutala, which was made by Vishvakarma according to my order. Being especially protected by me, the residents of this planet will remain free from all mental and bodily miseries, fatigue, dizziness, defeat, and natural calamities. Bali Maharaj, you may now go and peacefully live on the Sutala planet, surrounded by your friends and relatives. While residing there, not even the predominating deities of other planets will be able to conquer you. And as far as the demons are concerned, if they transgress your rule, my Sudarshan Chakra will kill them. O great hero, I shall always remain with you as your doorman to protect you in all respects. As a result of always seeing me, all the materialistic desires and anxieties that may arise because of your association with the demons will be thoroughly vanquished. With folded hands and eyes filled with tears, Bali Maharaj replied to the Lord in a voice that faltered due to devotional ecstasy. What a wonderful result one achieves by simply attempting to offer obeisances to you. Even though I am a fallen demon, just by offering my obeisances unto you, I have received more of your mercy than has been achieved by any of the demigods. After saying this, Bali Maharaj first offered his obeisances to Lord Vamanadev and then to Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Being released from the bondage of the Naga Pasha, Bali Maharaj very happily prepared to enter the planet known as Sutala and begin ruling the demons. In appreciation of the Lord's mercy upon his grandson, Prahlad Maharaj addressed Vamanadev in a greatly ecstatic voice. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, although you are universally worshipped, even by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, you have kindly agreed to personally protect us, the demons. I think that such mercy has never before been achieved by anyone, not even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Great personalities enjoy their perfection simply by tasting the nectar of rendering devotional service at your lotus feet. How then have we, who are all rogues and rascals, that have been born in an envious family of demons, received your mercy? It could only be possible because your mercy is causeless. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear son Prahlad, may there be a good fortune for you. For the time being, please accompany your grandson to Sutala and live there happily along with your friends and relatives. Rest assured that you will be able to see me there in my four-armed form. Due to the transcendental bliss you will derive from always seeing me, there will be no question of further bondage to fruitive activities. After taking Vamanadev's order upon his head, Prahlad Maharaj circumambulated the Lord, and then, after offering his obeisances, entered the lower planet known as Sutala, along with his grandson. The Supreme Lord then addressed Shukracharya, who was seated nearby in the midst of the assembly of sacrificial priests. O best of Brahmins, please describe the fault of your disciple Bali Maharaj, who was engaging in performing sacrifices. For what reason did he deserve to be cursed? Let this fault be judged by the qualified Brahmins and then nullified in their presence. Shukracharya replied, My dear Lord, you are the master of all sacrifices. Therefore, if one has fully satisfied you, what is the question of there being a fault in his sacrificial performance? Even if there are discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras, observing the regulative principles, or with regards to time, place, person, and paraphernalia, when your Lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. Still, since you have ordered that Bali Maharaj's discrepancies be nullified by the Brahmins, I must obey your command as my first duty. Thereafter, the Brahmins began compensating for whatever discrepancies there may have been in Bali Maharaj's execution of his sacrifices. Lord Vamanadev then delivered to his brother Indra all the land that he had taken away from Bali Maharaj on the plea of begging for free steps. To satisfy Kashyapa Muni and his wife Aditi, all the demigods and great sages headed by Lord Brahma decided to accept Lord Vamanadev, who is also called Upendra, as the protector of the Vedas, the principles of religion, fame, opulence, auspiciousness, vows, elevation to higher planetary systems, and liberation. Although Indra had been considered to be the king of the universe, the demigods and the great sages wanted to accept Lord Upendra as a supreme master of everything for the welfare of everyone within the three worlds. Thus, with great pleasure, Indra placed Lord Vamanadev in front of him, and then, with Lord Brahma's permission, brought him to his heavenly planet in a celestial airplane. In this way, under the protection of the Lord, Indra became reinstated in his original position, thus regaining his role of the three worlds. Finally, while glorifying Lord Vamanadev's uncommon activities and praising the exalted position of Aditi, all the demigods returned to their respective abodes. So this is the wonderful story of how Vamanadev appeared and how he came to the rescue of the demigods and how Bali Maharaj surrendered. So what are other moral values and life lessons we can learn is never give up truthfulness and always keep your promise. So we see that Bali Maharaj, he gave his word to Vamanadev, and even though his guru cursed him, he did not budge from his principles. He stood by the principles of always keeping his promise. So Bali Maharaj was very steady in his vows. Remember that the Lord is the proprietor of everything, and he may bless us with wealth, beauty, intelligence, wealth, but he may take it at any moment. So remember that when Bali Maharaj offered the Lord to put his third step on his head, Vindhyavali chastised her husband and said, "What kind of mentality is this when you think that you are the possessor?" So Bali Maharaj thought he was the proprietor of his body, but nothing belongs to us. Vindhyavali said, "It all belongs to the Lord." So if it all belongs to the Lord, then it's all his, and what's ours? What is it that is ours that we can give to him? So this is a very important thing to understand, is everything we have, beauty, intelligence, wealth, whatever it is that we have, it all belongs to Krishna. We should not hold on to it and use it for our sense gratification, but we should offer it to him, back to him. Otherwise we're like thieves. We should not be proud of what he gives us or attached to these things. We should offer them back to him in a mood of service. And we know that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 9:27, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, O son of Kunti, is an offering to me. So our lives will then be successful. So that is the end of the session. So let's follow the instructions of Bali Maharaj and chant his glories. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada.